Hey everyone, I am back working on my third project using this month's cards, tags, and more kit. I still have buttons, flowers, the embossing folder there, of course, and lots of partial pieces of paper. Some I have started working on because I've been trying to work out my measurements kind of before I started the video. So I will get to my paper later because I want to talk about what I'm going to do for the cover. Well, you know what, I will do the paper kind of quick right now, since most of it, almost all of it, there's only one piece that is not, and I can't even, there it is. Most of these papers, minus that one right there, are all 4 inches high. And then they have various lengths. Some are 4x8, a 4x6, 4x8.5, and 4x9.5. I will put the measurements up before I put it. I'll probably take a picture because as I work on them, I have the size, and then I put where to score at. So before I fold everything up, that'll show right there. Like this particular one there, you can see 4x8, and for some reason every time I move it comes out of focus. There. So you can see on this one that I score at 3 3/4 and 7.5. So after I get all my pages worked out, before I start my assembly, I will take a picture of these to put on the blog with all of the measurements and score lines on them. So these strips here and these smaller pieces I'm going to set aside, because what I use out of here will be after assembly. And put these over here. There we go. Because I want to talk about my hard cover. And I'm going to do that with this embossing folder and some Amazing Cast resin. Now, I did not come up with this. I saw this quite a few years ago now. I think I saw it from Karen Tamir. I think that's how you say her name. I'm not sure. And I think it would well, I mean, I suppose you could use it with any resin, but it works great with the 10-minute resins because it's only 10 minutes. If you want the lines recessed and the large areas raised, then use if you look at it like this with the Doris facing right, then you would use the back. I am going to use the front so that the lines are raised in the finished product. So I'm going to explain what I'm going to do, because with it being a quick resin, I do have to work fast, so I can't particularly talk or explain it as I go along. I am going to mix up my resin, and I'm actually going to do it right here because this is the non-stick mat. So I'm going to do it here. I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm going to pour it onto the half of this embossing folder that I want to use. I know right here you could see it better, but I don't want it to, it's harder to get the resin off here. I have to work at it a bit. Anyhow, so that's what I'm going to do. Mix up my resin and then pour it into the side I want. Alright, it is still soft, and this is important because I am going to be trimming it. And this one is still soft too. It's a little thicker, but it still is soft. So, this is kind of the important part. While it's still soft and you are able to cut it easily, grab up a pair of scissors and cut whatever size you want. I'm going to make mine as a 4x4, and I'm actually going to kind of mark it with, just grab up a permanent marker here, and I'm going to kind of try to trim it down just a tad, like so. I'll go kind of this way is already 4, and I don't care if it's uneven right now. And I'll probably go trim it here, and I'll trim it here, and here, there. Just like that. And like this. Ooh, that was uneven. Kind of straighten that out a little bit. And then kind of trim a little bit of that edge. Just trim it up however you want. Well, it's still pliable. Kind of got to work quick because I am going to want to get it back onto a flat surface for it to finish hardening, like this. Okay, I am going to kind of move this one up out of the way. Ooh, there we go. Maybe I should do it over here so that it's still on a non-stick surface. And I am just going to let that sit and harden up completely so that it's nice and sturdy. And I am going to make a back cover, I guess we'll call it. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. So I have 2 pieces of resin to use as covers. Kind of working on adding some color to these. I pulled them out, I trimmed them down, I added a coat of white gesso, which that's important to point out because this is not a non-yellowing resin. It's a quick set resin. It's not non-yellowing, so I want to make sure that that's covered up so it won't the yellow won't show as it ages. And so then I was kind of trying to get close to these shades here, even if it wasn't exact. So I mixed some speckled egg. This is from my stash. And a little bit of Peacock from Dina Wakley. This is been in a couple of kits. The most recent was July of this year. I believe it was July. And then I actually came in and added one little squirt of some bundled sage distress oxide. And you can see how that's coming out. This is still wet right now. You can actually see I didn't even bother taking off the permanent marker that I had used. It actually turned kind of pink. So I'm gonna kind of try to remake it. I've done the front sides, I have the back sides to do. So I'm gonna try to recreate again so you can see approximately how much of each one that I had put down. Alright, with this dry now, and I'm kind of, this still has like more muted to it, so I'm actually just going to take my speckled egg distress paint and give it a nice kind of a watered down coating. Just like this. I'm just going to spread it on. And I'm going to add some more of this bundled sage. And I remember this came in the August 2020 mixed media kit. There's a bottle of this bundled sage distress oxide. I'm going to kind of use this as my watering down, like that. Kind of blend it in on the surface, rough blend. I'm actually kind of really going for a mess here. I think I'm succeeding in being messy, and I'm going to dry it up. Alright, I have these all painted, and I think I'm going to add something more to them, but I'm still going to kind of think about it. So I'm going to go back to working on these papers. First, I wanted to talk about these three specifically. The one that 4x8, the 4x8 with the 3 3/4 and 7.5 inch scores, the 4x8.5 with the 4 1/4 inch score, and the 4x9.5 with the 1/2 inch and 5.5 inch score, because these were the original. It was just one of those things that came up on my YouTube suggestions, okay, for just this 3-part notebook that has like a fold out and a pocket and another fold out. So hopefully I'll be able to look at recently watched videos and find the link for that, and I'll put the link for this original journal, which gave me the idea, especially when they mentioned I could add extra pages, which led me to this pile. But I wanted to talk about the original idea. So now that I have that, I'm going to go through, because like I said, I'm kind of doing this as I go along. I'm going to go through and I'm going to finish creating my pockets and my pages and my flips, and then on my blog, or on the Tres Jolie blog, both of them, I will take a picture of all of my measurements, and so it'll have the inches and it will have where I scored, so that you can see all of those measurements, so I don't have to go through every single page in my little flip book. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll do that. I'm gonna go work out how I want these, and then take my picture, and then come back and start assembly and finishing touches on my cover. Alright, I have my pages scored. Pretty sure I have them scored where I want them, kind of laid out together how I want them, and I am just going to start at the beginning. And what you will see coming through here, I'm going to kind of put them together a little bit at a time. I'll be coming in to take my pictures, so you'll see that, so that I can work like that, and they'll quit hopefully sliding all over on me. So before I do any final sealings on ones that would be hidden, I'll take my pictures, I'll put them together, and I'll take my pictures and we'll go on to the next page. There, that's what I'm trying to say there. So I'm just going to start, and I'm going to put some of my ATG glue on there on my flap, and then a little bit of some liquid glue, and that's just so that the ATG glue will hold them together right in place right away, and give my liquid glue a chance to set up. And hopefully, there we go. We'll just grab a baby wipe so that when I do things like spread it around with my finger, I can wipe it off. Alright, so first thing, I'm taking my shortest one, which is that 3 3/4 one, and putting it on one of the 4-inch ones, like this. Hopefully I remember everything I'm doing. So that's, I'm just going to be building things up. Because this goes like this. That, yes. So there, you can kind of see. So that is what I'm doing. Then I'll come in, kind of take my pictures. Hopefully that will help. So hopefully that will help in the process of when you put yours together. Alright, I have more or less got this put together. You can see this one is actually a pretty long pull out there. A pocket, a fold out, or a double fold out, a short page. This flips up. This I will get to. Another pocket, a fold out. This I will also get to in a moment. This folds down. And then more fold out. Now, since I was building this as I went along, I had to make a couple adjustments on mine because, well, I didn't necessarily turn my pages the right way. But I do have measurements up there, and you don't have to build it like I built it. This is really just to give you some ideas of how to put something like this together. And I've saved one of my pockets. This is a top pocket here, and then this one is another top pocket, but I have this one, which when I come back to it, it will be a side pocket. So for my pockets, just for some thumb tabs, I guess we'll call them thumb tabs, I just grabbed, this is a 2.5 inch circle punch, and I just eyeballed about where it would be centered or so, and that's all there was for those pockets. So I will be coming back to these two in just a minute. I am going to add a little extra to what I want to do. These are kind of my covers. They're thin. Right now they're flexible. They may still get harder. I have had thinner like this. See, this was thin. It stayed relatively flexible. Same technique that I used. So these are thinner. They may still stay flexible, which is fine. But around the edges, I want to add some Sweet Rose wax. The waxes are pigment based, so once they're on there, as long as there's not too much handling, you don't have to worry about it. You can seal them if you want to. I'm not going to worry about sealing them. I am just going to add this Sweet Rose wax along the edges of my covers, like so, just to kind of get a little bit of shine in there, and possibly, you know, a little something like this randomly, just to add a little bit to these. Alright, while I was sitting here working with the Sweet Rose, and I was just staring at this shabby pink, I decided that these covers needed a little bit of the shabby pink. Happens, sitting there working on one thing, staring at another product. So I'm just going to kind of put this on around the edges, real light. The shabby pink is one of the matte waxes, so I don't want to take away all of the shine from that sweet rose, but I do kind of want to add it kind of as little accent areas. Alright, I'm gonna let these sit over here now. I'm just gonna let that wax set up. Well, I'll talk about what I had planned for these two sections that I had left out. And I want to, this is just a little bit of some twine, and I am going to kind of stitch them in just for a little bit of extra texture in there. I'm just gonna rough poke some holes through them and tie them through in the back. Another little bit I want to add. This is some 49 in Market burlap trim. It is from the January 2020 Cards, Tags, and More kit. And I want to kind of, it's going to be part of the spine, and I will later use it to help hold my cover in place. So let me get this out. I am actually just going to kind of guess what size, like so, kind of unroll it like that and cut it down. I wanted to get this going before I stitched in those pages so that it will come through. So I have it ready, and I'm just going to eyeball it like that, centered, and then add those pages in. Alright, I have my little burlap trim attached to my little notebook, and I'm just going to kind of trim up the strings just a little bit here. And now for my covers, I am going to line them up how I want them on this burlap, something like so. Just to kind of give it some stability. And I am going to use some E6000 because it's against resin, it has that wax on it. I'm going to use some heavy duty adhesive to stick it together. And since E6000 has quite a bit of cure time, I am going to set it aside while it sets up. But I also want to make sure it doesn't stick to the paper, and I want to be able to hold it down. So I'm going to stick it, I'm going to clean this off real quick over here, this non-stick mat. There we go. And grab that and clean it up real good. So I can weigh it down like so, and I will probably stick this one on and kind of sandwich it just to get everything, I should say sandwich it like this, just to get everything together, and then I'll let it sit and let that E6000 set up. Alright, my little book is completely constructed. And this is where my whatever you want it to be comes in. You can leave it like this. You can add pictures. You can write in it like a little journal. Or, for kind of what I was thinking, you can turn it into like a little art journal. You know, got pockets here and flips. And if you like my glue, my E6000, obviously it soaks through and made little splotches. So I am just going to grab up some white gesso and add a coat in here. If you also want to, depending on if you're going to be writing in it with items that might bleed through, you can put some white gesso or clear gesso on your pages. With these, let me move these out of the way. Oh, if you want, you can still add some of the buttons, some of the flowers. This is actually, I'm going to get to right now what had originally kind of prompted me into making this a whatever you want journal. And that was some of these sentiments. You can kind of make it like a, I don't know, a motivational journal. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but I can't really think of the word I want right now. But some of these would go good in it. Every day is a new journey. Let's see, there was a few in here. Some days it storms, some days it shines. This is how flowers grow. Anything is possible with the right people around you. I'm just going to cut out a few of these from the paper that came in this month's kit. You can get some or write some from anywhere, really. Alright, I have a few cut out here. The other things for those pockets, you're just going to go through and grab up some of the larger pieces. There we go. I think I like this one. And turn them into tags. Just gonna kind of cut it in, see how long I want it. Like so. So there's that. You can make little inserts and tags for those pockets that you could also add some gesso to if you want, that you can also and you can also draw on them and insert them. There you can see, without, I don't stop and really think about what I'm doing necessarily. When I painted my quick little card on this side, I just spread that excess paint in different areas. Doesn't have to have any rhyme or reason. And I'm just gonna continue working in my little pocket art journal that I made as a way to relax. And over here I just grabbed up some pins and outlined. You can't see there is white on this one, but you can't see it very well. Some green. And I'll just go through the whole process the same way throughout my journal until it's full, or until I feel as though it's full, without any really needing to worry about matching. Never know what kind of combinations you can come up with just doing simple unscripted, I know the word I'm looking for, can't think of it. We'll just use unscripted for now. It's very freeing to just go in. So whether you decided to turn your anything book into an art journal, or if you're just going to use it as a little mini photo album, don't forget to have fun while you're doing it. I hope you enjoyed this project. I will, in the blog, link the original 3-page video that just happened to come up in my YouTube recommendations one day. I will add the link to that original project in my in the blog, either the Tres Jolie blog and my blog. We'll both have it. So I hope you enjoyed this project and it gave you some ideas of what you can do with the papers from this month's mixed media kit. I may come back in with some of those buttons, add in maybe some of the flowers. It's all probably going to depend on how things come about for me. Thank you, and I will see you again next month.